I've been doing this work at this rate. I think I just need to understand how to come back. If I say that I am increasing those rates or moving to a different structure or something like that, I kind of am like, oh, like what's my, what's my rationale?
Welcome to the Smart Gets Paid podcast with me, Leah Niederthal. I help women land higher paying clients in their independent consulting businesses, but I've never been a salesperson. My background is in corporate marketing, and when I started my first consulting business, I learned pretty quickly that it's about 1,000 times harder to sell your own stuff than it is to sell someone else's. So I taught myself how to do it, and I created the sales approach that I now share with my clients so they can feel more comfortable in the sales process, get more of the right clients, and get paid way more for every client contract. So whether your client contracts are $5,000, $100,000, or more, if you want to work with more of the clients you love, do more of the work you love, and get paid more than you ever thought you could, then you're in the right place. Let's do it together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate, review, and share. Hey there, Leah here, and thanks for tuning in. I hope that wherever you're listening to this, wherever you are right now, you're having a great week, making some good progress on your business, and taking some time for you. So many years ago, I was wrapping up my workday, and I sat there at my computer feeling just tired. And it was that kind of tired that was like my brain was tired. Like my brain actually felt like it hurt. Like I could almost feel it hurting. Have you ever felt that like after a long day? And I know that's crazy because I don't think you have any nerve endings in your brain, but like, trust me, my brain felt tired. Maybe you felt that before too, like at the end of a long day. And as I was sitting there feeling my brain just feel tired, I realized, I was like, I have touched every client today in some capacity. I think I had had a call with a few clients. Maybe I'd responded to an email or written something for a client. But like I had had some touch point that day with every client that I was working with at the time. And I think the task switching had just sort of like worn me out because there's a limit to the number of clients you can handle in a day. And there's a limit to the number of clients you can handle in a week or a month or even a year. And you know when you've hit it. And often you know it only when you look back and think, oh, like, man, I did okay or pretty well or really well, but I worked really hard. And I don't want to have a year like that again. And that's why a lot of the women consultants who come to me after running their business for a few years tell me that they've realized they're working with too many clients and they want to work with fewer clients in a deeper way. And what that means is they want to work with fewer clients that pay them more. And I hear this from a lot of the women I work with and, for good reason. And that's why I'm devoting 2 episodes, this episode and the next episode, to sharing how you can work with fewer clients that pay you more. I'm going to share what works, what doesn't work, and some specific steps that you can take so that you can achieve your revenue goals by working with fewer clients and without overwork or burning yourself out. So in this episode, you're going to hear how we tackled the first challenge to that end, raising prices for your current clients. And you're going to listen in on a conversation with one of my clients about how to talk to her clients about raising her prices. And then in the next episode, we're going to talk about how to get new clients that pay you more so you can achieve your revenue goals by working with fewer clients and without overwork. So in this episode, you're going to hear me talk to a client who is feeling the same thing that a lot of women consultants are feeling. When she came to the end of the year, she realized that she had worked with 20 clients that year. And since her work is really hands-on and she works in an intensive way with her clients, 20 clients is way too many. And she was exhausted and she felt like there has to be a better way. So she decided that she needed to make a change. Instead of working with many clients at the level that she had, she wanted to work with fewer clients that paid her more. So in this episode, you're going to hear how my client realized she needed to work with fewer clients that paid her more. You're going to hear how to start the conversation with current clients about raising your prices. You're going to listen in on some head trash that was holding my client back from confidently approaching her current clients. And you're going to hear the bad news and the good news about raising your prices with current clients. And again, in the next episode, we'll turn our attention to new clients, and I'll share the exact steps to work with fewer clients that pay you more. So I want to send a huge thank you to my client for allowing me to share this call with you. Take a listen, and I'll come back at the end and share a lesson that you can apply to your business.
So the biggest thing for me, so as I was preparing, I think that this was better timing even than I thought, because I think one of the things we talked about a lot was value-based pricing. And I want to make sure that I'm not leaving money on the table, that I can get the most for the value that I'm providing my clients. But also too, I think when I think about what that looks like long-term, so we just did our taxes and I got 20 1099s from last year. I worked with 20 clients. So
is that more or less or
I just think that's a lot of, even if some of those were just like quick projects, but that's too many people, emails, things to manage. So I would like to work with fewer higher paying clients in a perfect world, because I do have some established relationships with people who I've worked with who I just like really enjoy them. I think that they really feel that I provide a lot of value. I think that we have a good rapport and relationship, and I would rather focus my time and energy on building these more like meaningful, substantial, mutually beneficial relationships than saying yes to all these little things that I'm a little bit scared to say no to because they could develop into something else. So when I was thinking about this whole like change in pricing structure, most of my clients, the end of their fiscal year is June 30th. So I have a lot of contracts that are up for renewal June 30th. So I want to make sure that I know how I'm positioning myself. So when I looked at who I've been working with, it's like a 3-prong challenge for me. There are hourly clients, so people who I've just been charging on an hourly basis. And it's a lot of just either people who I haven't been able to, they can't justify a retainer. They're like, it's just a one-off project, or we just need some assistance with kind of things as they come up. We can't look ahead at the whole year and commit to something. And I haven't wanted to say no, because in my mind, it's kind of like I may do enough of those little projects and then they do have a bigger need. And then I'm like the person they go to. So the first like challenge opportunity I see is that I want to be able to say, like, basically, I'm not doing hourly pricing anymore. I really enjoyed working with you. I hope that you feel like I'm bringing value to your organization. Here's how I'm structuring my work moving forward. I hope that we can continue to move forward, and then to have that conversation.
And you've already done that, or you just want to?
No, I'm like in a place now where I'm like approaching some of those conversations, because I feel like a lot of people are planning for their like July 1 through June 30th. So I want to figure out, what does that conversation look like? How am I having it? What are the numbers I'm providing them? I'm so used to working on this hourly, like time value to hours. So if I'm not tying value to hours, how am I making that argument to them to like invest in me? And then I have clients right now who have signed a retainer, or we are working in that capacity, but like, how do I move them up? Like, how do I charge more? Like, how do I, if I'm moving away from saying like X dollars gets you X hours, how can I turn that into like X dollars, which may be more than you're paying right now, gets you, like, what does it get you? How am I like, how am I selling that? And then I saw the third prong as just, once I have that down, then what about these maybe like clients I don't even know exist? So it's moving my hourly clients to something more sustainable, like a retainer. My existing clients, if I feel like some of them are, I'm glad I have their buy-in and we have a contract, but maybe I'm still undercharging them. How does that conversation happen? And then I'm hoping that the third part of that is, then it opens up for potential clients. Then I have the framework to know what I'm doing or be charging the correct amounts moving forward. So pricing is like really front of mind right now, because I want to be having some of those conversations. And I feel like I have like a little bit of an idea in terms of like what the argument is or how I can sell them on that. But I'm curious because I don't know what that's tied to if I'm not saying, oh, it's this amount of hours. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay.
I mean, it's all, we're going to start to work backwards, because of course, you can't have the conversation if you don't know how to communicate it, but you also can't have the conversation if you don't know why it makes sense for them and for you. And have you considered that you might lose some clients in this process?
Yeah, which is like scary. But it also,
and hold on, I'm not just saying you're going to lose all your clients, but
right.
I'm thinking specifically about if there are clients that I don't want to say that anybody who's hourly can't go to value-based pricing. They absolutely can. And it's not to say that and just because you've tried it doesn't, and it didn't work, doesn't mean that it won't work in the future.
Right.
However, the ones I'm thinking about are the hourly clients that are sort of, I'm imagining the least profitable, right? That sort of lower, that first tier that you were talking about.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because that was one of my questions too about like exactly the word you used. Are there tiers of, even when you start pricing your services? I was having this conversation with my husband because I was like, I don't want to say anybody is disposable, but I do wonder, like, the conversation having somebody jump from $1,500 a month that they're paying you to maybe $2,500 because you've made some sort of argument for like what you're adding, what type of additional value. I think that's different than like somebody who is having you do these onesie twosie projects and they're paying you like a couple $100 a month to say, oh, now my minimum for the month is $2,000 or something. Like, I don't know if they just truly might not have the work to support that. So I have thought of that, but I'm like, maybe that, even though it stinks in the moment, maybe that frees up time and energy for me to pursue these people who are going to be way more profitable.
Totally. Well, and what I was making notes while you're talking, and also the note that I had written down is, I'm sure that this is especially scary if you don't have a plan to replace those with better clients, right? Yeah. And so that's why like all these pieces work together, right? You don't just, it's certainly hard to be like, well, I'm going from $100 an hour or whatever to minimum $2,500 to even get me out of bed without a plan to just get those, because you have to learn how to get clients, right?
Right.
But immediately replace some of those smaller clients that, they're just not going to come with you.
Right.
And the thing about that, I'm maybe picking up a little bit of something that's like, do I have the right to do this?
Right.
I don't know.
For sure. Yeah. Like I think because I wonder if I've set like, I know that behaviors can be changed, but I hope that it's like salvageable. I haven't just set this like expectation that even moving people who are paying me like a fixed amount every month, like I do wonder, even trying to move them up, like I've been doing this work at this rate and producing it. I think I just need to understand how to come back, if I say that I am increasing those rates or moving to a different structure or something like that. I think you're right. I kind of am like, oh, like what's my rationale? Like,
exactly. But I think there's a little bit of, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I do want to sort of call out maybe a small elephant in the room, which is like, what right do I have to, to just say like, I've been doing it this way and now I'm doing it this other way. And
right.
Sorry. But the truth is that you have set this expectation. That's okay. But you also have the right to change how you're doing business at any time. Like, and at any time for any reason. And so, whether it's the end of the contract or the end of the year or whatever, or you're just taking your business in another direction, like, even if you said tomorrow, like, I don't even want to do this work, I'm doing something else. Right. That's also totally okay. So you have that right. Nobody's going to be mad. I mean, they might feel a way about it, but you're also going to have a system for getting more of the clients who really are picking up what you're putting down.
And it's weird because I do definitely have that feeling. And I would think, I guess I only know what I know, but like, I assume that's just a part of some of the fear that comes along with like change and growth and stuff like that. But I also know, like, I can point to clients who I know I think would really fight to, like, they think that what I'm providing is valuable. They feel like I'm an extension of their team. They are very pleased with the work. I've had people ask like, would you ever consider a full-time job? You know what I mean? So like, I know that there is value there. And I know that I'm not disposable to some of these clients. So there is this inkling where I'm like, I do think that they would pay me more. I just don't know what the tipping point is, like how far to push it, what my rationale is, how do I even come up with those numbers that I feel are like a baseline for what I'm providing? And then like, how do I communicate that? If it's not hours, like, am I hoping that they can project everything that they would want me to do for the year? So for some of the clients that I work with, I know that there's like annual projects that come up every year, but like, I don't want them to feel boxed out if they don't know every single thing they want me to assist with for the next 12 months.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and so I just want to say all those questions about like, how do I structure it and how do I charge it and how charge for it and how do I talk about it and how do I, all of that, what's included, like that's going to be the first thing on your roadmap because there's a strategy for how to put together value-based pricing.
Okay.
And there's two components of it. There's value-based pricing, which is how do you structure your services and price it for value just in general. And then we also take a subset of that. And there's a strategy called the Etsy offer. And Etsy stands for easy to say yes. It's not easy to say yes because it's cheap. It's easy to say yes because it works with how clients make purchase decisions. So both of those two things will be on your roadmap. And then you'll have literally a step-by-step plan for how to, like, I'm going to walk you through how to put it together.
Okay.
Right? And then you can bring it to the feedback forum and we can workshop it, review it, make sure it's awesome before you bring it to the world.
Okay.
But I just want to call out one thing really quick. I think you're totally right about, I'm sure you've delivered incredible value to these clients, right? And it's just this concept I want to send over the internet to you, which is, I just want you to understand that like clients are not dying to get rid of you. They're not. I mean, I think that we sit over here and we're like, oh my God, if I make one move, and certainly this is a big move, but like if I make a move, they're going to get rid of me. And clients are not dying to get rid of you. I mean, think about, have you ever worked with a contractor or somebody on your team who like maybe is not the absolute best, but, or even on the other end is just not totally carrying his or her weight or whatever. How long do you keep those people on? Right. Because the switching costs are really high. And so, and I'm not saying they're going to keep you on because getting rid of you is hard. I'm saying they're going to keep you on because they like you and they're probably going to fight to keep you, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's a few things we have to work on here because one thing about pricing is, and not just pricing, but offering pricing to clients who can actually afford that, right? It involves a few things. And each of these things is going to be on your roadmap in what order we'll decide. But we have to know, in your case, what the thing is, right? How are you going to restructure your services? Working backwards, we have to also start to message your work in a way that communicates that value, right? And that sets that value. So I'm looking at your website right now and you have under your services, you have all the things you will create, right? Which is it's a very common like trap to fall into. These are the things I will do for you, right? We want to get away from that. Because if you're like, this is a thing I'll do, how can we blame people when they're like, hey, will you do this thing for me? So we're going to take the messaging and not just create a great painkiller statement, which we will, but also apply value-based messaging to other things that you might have, like your LinkedIn profile, your website, right? And the purpose of that is to get the right people even into our orbit, right? Then we have to talk about price on the first call, right? Because if this is the way you're going to work, then we have to just, like anything, we have to make sure that we're even in the same ballpark, right? If your minimum program, and I like program over packages, small thing, but if your minimum program is like $2,500 a month and somebody wants it for $200, you're not a client,
right?
You know, you were never going to be a client. I mean, they might've been your client in like the before times,
right?
But not the new times,
right? They're not coming with you.
They're not coming with you. And then we put our pricing and, you know, the information we get in a discovery call, we put that into a great proposal. And then we also have to help the client talk about your work inside the company or inside the administration team, however they're selling to. So all these things are connected. Does that make sense? And then of course we have to have a strategy to like bring the people in.
Right.
So, but it feels like to me right now, it's about, we have to solve this burning question of what am I even offering?
Right.
All right. The thing about having these conversations is we want to do a few things.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is we have to communicate the change in a way that benefits the client.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So one benefit of doing value-based pricing is you and the client are going in the same direction. Like you have the same goals, because really when you're doing hourly pricing or even like a set of retainer or a set of hours, right? It's like you and the client actually have opposite goals. They need to achieve the outcomes that they need in their business or their organization. And you want to make money, right? You're going to make money by helping them do that. But like also you need to get paid for that.
Right.
For the work that you do. When you use value-based pricing, it's all based on the value to the company or value to the organization. You're actually both going in you have the same goals. Right? And the meter's never running. Like you'll never have to make a purchase decision just when you reach out to me. And we price it to be generous, you know? And depending on how you actually put the programs together, it'll be tremendous value to the client, right?
Yes.
And then you have a conversation to talk about to talk about this change, because because a lot of times you spend your time so much like doing the work, you never stop to talk about the work. So we set some time to talk about the work, and you say like, I've changed my business to be able to better accommodate. I'm just making this up, right? But to be able to better accommodate my clients. Because think about if you have 20 clients, then you're spread across 20 clients. And then you might not have those 20 clients
right at once.
Times. Yeah. But I'm taking on fewer clients, working more deeply with their team, blah, 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 fill in the blank, but you get more of my attention. That doesn't mean you get more of my hours, but it means you get more of my attention.
And do you think in this model, because it's interesting, even though and I'm sure that this is a product of just like when you do something long enough, you get tunnel vision and feel like that's the only way to do it. Because do you think that there's a danger, probably too strong a word, but let's say I'm quoting a much higher price. Am I basically saying kind of like unlimited, like I'm kind of yours whenever? Because I'm not even nervous from like a time management perspective that I'm going to be like, oh my God, what if I tell everybody I'm available to them, even if it's five clients or whatever it is? I'm more just wondering, and this might be something you're getting to, so sorry if I butted in, but like, how are you, like when you're pitching it like this, I don't want to spread myself too thin. I want to be like a more strategic partner for you. I want to be an extension of your team and be like truly integrated in what's happening. Do you think they'll ask about limitations in terms of, since they're used to working on an hour with an hourly cap, like, well, what does this include? Do you know what I mean? Do you think those questions come up?
They might. They might, because this conversation, I will say, this conversation will be more difficult than any future conversation with any client that comes in starting today. And the good news is that there's a limited number of these conversations you're going to have. Right. Okay. So once you get through them, you're through them. And P.S., you don't have to even bring this conversation to some of the people that you just think are not, the right fit for this way of working with you. They might push back, or they might not even push back. They might probe. And I think also you and I are talking about this completely in hypothetical terms. So like it all feels weird and scary and nebulous.
Because there's nothing because
there's nothing we're looking at. But I just one thing I want to share is that you're not asking permission. You're not being like, is this okay? You're saying, this is how I am working. I brought it to you first, right? I'd love to continue our relationship. We've done all these great things together. This is a way I can provide you more service. And more service doesn't mean I'm unlimited to you forever. Those questions will be answered in how you actually structure the package. Right. So it's not just like I'm all yours forever. Right. And another thing you can do, and I like to do, is again on making the client feel special, because you do have this relationship, right? You can say, this goes into effect on X date. I am, as in reflecting our relationship or whatever, and on of our partnership for so many years, I'm extending your current rate or whatever through, 2 months. 3 months, 1 month, whatever it is, but you're accommodating them in some way. So it's not just like take it or leave it. The world changes tomorrow. All right. Does that feel a little bit like you're meeting, I don't know, to me, it feels like you're meeting them halfway. I mean, how does that land with you?
I agree. And it's interesting because it's some of the language that I have thought through already when I'm thinking about these kind of like first initial set of conversations in terms of changing behavior, whether it's from an hourly rate to a retainer or from a lower retainer to a higher retainer. Some of those same kind of phrases about providing better support and like being more available and things like that. So I found that what has even worked so far is even just being like, this kind of provides you the peace of mind that you don't need to like ask if I'm available. You know what I mean? Like,
there you go.
So those are some of the good kind of things that I've really found out, like what people like, what they grab onto.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one of the things about, especially within the people who are going from the old way, the new way, right? Mm-hmm. I do think that you have to show up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the best way to say this, but it's like, make them feel good that it's worth it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And maybe not forever, but for a time. So what that looks like is, and you may do some of this already, but like, okay, it's the start of the month. Let's make sure we know what's coming. Let's make sure, essentially, if I'm a gym, let's make sure that you have to come to the gym so you don't cancel your gym membership.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like getting a call from the trainer, right? When are we setting up your next workout? Mm-hmm. But that's easy for you to implement because that could be as easy as a calendar invite that you put in your own calendar, like once a month or 2 weeks, or maybe you have a quarterly planning session. It's like a little bit more leading the client from your side, but it can be extremely high value for them because they'll get the benefit of their investment, and clients need to be led a little bit. Like most of our clients are like on fire.
Yeah.
And so if you say, listen, I'm driving, I will make sure that we know what we're working on together. I don't know how that all sits with you.
No, absolutely. That makes total sense. And I think that it's a more proactive, like, I'm here, don't forget about me. I'm here to work with you. Yeah. And I think that it shows you're not just waiting for them like anything else. You're not just waiting to be contacted. You're like, what's going on?
Totally.
What's coming up this month? What's next on the agenda type thing.
Absolutely. And it fulfills the promise, right? If the way we've changed is so that I can be a more strategic partner, then I'm just not going to sit around waiting for you to tell me to work on something. So you do prove it out. All right.
Okay.
All right. Cool. You're doing great. I'm so glad you're here. You're getting a really good jump on this. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation end of March for end of June. And so you're going to be in great shape.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited.
All right. So there's so much to unpack in that call. And I know it was kind of a lot. Like even as I was re-listening to it and editing, I just kept hearing myself saying like, and you have to do this thing and another thing and another thing. But truthfully, that's because to work with fewer clients that pay you more so that you can make great money without overwork, it's not just about doing one thing, like raising your prices. It's about doing a lot of things right. From the types of clients you attract in your messaging, to how you lead a sales call, to your value-based scope and pricing, to how you lead a sales process and navigate the jungle. That's a lot of steps. And if you think about it, a lot of steps that lead to an outcome, that's a system. And to work with fewer clients that pay you more, each part of the system has to work properly. Unfortunately, you can't just sort of spot fix it. It's not about just fixing one thing. It's about looking across the system and making sure that everything is working. Because, for example, you can't sell in a high-value, high-profit program if you're still trying to sell it to the people who are just coming to you for tactics, or if you're trying to sell it to companies who can't afford you. And so in the next episode, we're going to talk about what those steps in the system are, those exact steps to start working with fewer clients who can pay you more. But I want to pull out something from this call that you can use in your business. And it's something we sort of went over really quickly. So I want to really pull this out and make it super clear. To transform your business to where you're working with fewer clients that can pay you more, you don't simply raise your prices. You have to turn your services into value-based scope and priced services. And when you bring that new value-based scope and pricing to your current clients, you're not simply telling them you get the same thing and now it costs more. What you're doing is bringing them something that's completely different. And it's different because you've used value-based scope and pricing to create a value-packed service that looks and feels different with more value and helping them achieve better outcomes. And that different service has a different, higher price. So you're not letting them just compare apples to apples, like the same apple with a new price. You're comparing apples to oranges, and you're making those oranges like the best oranges they've ever seen. This value-based scope and pricing is so important both for current clients and future clients. And it's the reason why when you join the Academy, it's one of the first things you learn step by step. And a lot of women, when they start to work with me, they've heard of value-based pricing before, but it's kind of like this nebulous concept that because it's just a concept, it's impossible to put into practice. So what I've done is I break it down into its component parts. And once you know those parts, you can start to actually create value-based scope and pricing in your business. So I want to walk through those really quick because it's time that this concept is demystified for people. So there are 4 parts of value-based scope and pricing. The first component is a value-based title. You call it what the value is. So instead of calling it like marketing scope or whatever, you call it what it will do for the client. So if you're a leadership consultant and the work that you're proposing will help team members go from managers to leaders, you call it the Managers to Leaders program. So that's the first component, value-based title. Second are the core activities, the things that must happen for the client to receive the value. So if it's that you do this set of work or you do these things or you lead these sessions or whatever, those are the actual core activities of what must take place for this work to be successful. This is what you probably think of as scope right now. The third component is what we call racetrack activities. These are things that are high value for the client and low lift for you. The racetrack comes from a story about buying a BMW, that when you bought this certain trim level, like the performance trim, you got to spend a day at the BMW performance racetrack. Now, that racetrack was going to be there regardless of whether the customer bought the performance trim or a lower trim. It was something that was extremely high value for the client, but low lift for the company. And then finally, the fourth component, the price. And the price is based on the value to the client, not the value of the hours you're putting in. And P.S., the value to the client comes from doing great discovery. So those are the components of value-based scope and pricing. So if you want to turn your work into value-based scope and price services so that you get paid on value, not your time, and you'd like our help to not only do it and do it well, but actually create the system to help clients say yes to it, of course, reach out to us at smartgetspaid.com and let's chat. So what I want to leave you with is this. Being able to work with fewer clients that pay you more, so you don't have to work with as many clients and get overworked, to do that, you don't raise your prices. You create something new using value-based scope and pricing, something that's high value to your clients and high profitability for you. And that's how you help current clients become higher paying clients, which is a major step towards working with fewer clients that pay you more. As a quick PS to the conversation that you just heard today, I wanted to share a post from the client you heard me talk to in this episode. She posted in our community, and this is what she shared a few months later. All right, this is word for word. She goes, I'm so happy to share that. And then she has 3 bullet points. Okay, so again, I'm so happy to share that. Bullet point 1. I've renewed 6 of my existing clients for new, all caps, new 6-month contracts. Bullet point 2. With the help of value-based pricing, I've successfully transitioned all of these clients to higher rates, a nearly 50% increase across the board. And then bullet point 3. For just these 6 clients, that totaled $45,000 in new revenue, those all caps, new revenue, money that would have just been left on the table had I renewed at their current rates. She goes on to say, I feel like this is a huge step in the right direction to not only get paid for the value I'm delivering, but focusing on the work I want to do with the people I want to work with. And remember, this is someone who the previous year worked with 20 clients, and this year is going to be far fewer. It's possible. It was possible for her, and it's possible for you too. All right, so that was part 1 of working with fewer clients that pay you more on how to handle current clients. In the next episode, we'll talk about how to get new clients that pay you more so you can achieve your revenue goals by working with fewer clients and without overwork or burning yourself out. All right, I'll see you in the next episode.